Today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you a fun, whimsical card featuring the little forest of trees, a wood grain background, and a few Copic markers. This card features the new Sun-Kissed Autumn Stamp TV kit. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to do this technique. First, you are going to need that little forest of trees stamp from the Sun-Kissed Autumn set. You're going to need some ink pads, and the two ink pads that I'm going to use for the wood grain background are peanut brittle and gray flannel. You wouldn't think to put these two colors together, but when you do, you get a really interesting wood grain background. Then you're going to need a Memento Tuxedo Black ink pad. I have two pieces of our Gina Designs ivory cardstock, and then some Copic markers. And the colors I have are E07, which is light mahogany. I have R37, which is carmine. I have YR24, which is pale sepia. And then I have a colorless blender pen. You're also going to need either a Score Pal or a Score Buddy, and I'm going to use my Score Buddy for this particular card. Now the first piece of cardstock that I have here is cut 5 inches across by 3 3/4 inches this way. So we're going to place it into the Score Buddy with the 5-inch long piece up toward the top. And what you're going to do with this is you're going to create score lines evenly spaced at 1 inch apart. So one at 1 inch, one at 2 inches, one at 3 inches, and one at 4 inches. Now, if you want, you can move your cardstock down a little bit and start a little off your cardstock. This way, it'll complete the score line up at the top there. Otherwise, sometimes it's a little tough to get it scored all the way up to the top. So now this is going to be my background paper, and what I've done here is I've created 1-inch planks of wood, and you'll see how that looks once I use the ink pads. The first color I want to put down is the peanut brittle. And this is a direct-to-paper technique. You've seen me do this before. You're just going to take the ink pad and rub it down the cardstock, just like that. And that creates the look of wood. But then I'm going to add some gray flannel on top, and that's going to make my wood look very, very weathered. There we go. Isn't that pretty? Now when this dries, it's going to dry quite a bit lighter. And that's one thing you might want to check when you're working with ink pads. Stamp your ink and then let it dry for a little bit. It will lighten up quite a bit. So if you're looking to match a particular cardstock color, you want to see what that color is going to look like dry, not what it looks like as soon as you stamp it. Okay, so I'm going to allow that to dry a little bit. Now I have another small piece of the Gina Designs ivory cardstock, and I'm going to ink up this little forest of trees with the Memento Black ink pad. Now when I was playing with this card, I thought that I wanted to paper piece these trees, and of course these trees definitely lend themselves to paper piecing, there's no doubt. And we have so many fun pattern papers that you can do that with. But I thought it would be fun to color this and then play with some texture by using the colorless blender pen. So the first color that I'm going to use is the E07, and that's the light mahogany. I'm going to color 2 of the trees in this color. I'm going to use the wide side of the marker first to get most of the trees colored in. And then I'll go to the smaller side of the marker for the more detailed stuff when it gets close to the edge, like that. Now the reason why I'm using this marker and another marker that's very close, I showed that to you, is because I'm trying to match the cardstock Cherry Red, which is one of our new red cardstocks, and that comes in the Stamp TV kit. Well, I found that this particular color was just a hair too brown, and the other color that I'm going to use was a little bit too pink. But when I mixed them together, it created the perfect cherry red to match my cardstock. So don't be afraid to mix Copic markers together to come up with new colors. You'll be surprised how many more options you have if you're trying to match particular cardstock colors or pattern paper colors. Okay, so I almost have these two done in this color. And now I'm going to lay down that second color, and that one is the carmine. That's the R37. And again, I'm going to do the wide side first, and you can see that just adds a little bit of pink tone into those trees. Just pinks it up a little bit. Let's get a little bit closer there for you so you can see all of this. And they're so close, they really are. They're very close in color, so you really kind of have to look closely to see where you've already colored and where you haven't. But when you lay the color up against that cherry red cardstock, you will see the difference if you're only using one versus using both of them combined. Now for my other two trees, I'm going to make them a little bit more bright, and I'm going to use this pale sepia YR24, and again coloring big strokes using that chisel edge first to fill in most of it. You're going to love the way our cardstock works with the Copic markers. You're going to be able to get great blending and also some really fun colorless blender techniques. It's just the right porosity, especially our ivory. I really enjoy using our ivory for these autumn cards. And you can see I just have a little bit of fill-in work to do here. And then we can get to the fun stuff. Although this is pretty fun. Now for those of you who don't have Copic markers, you can try this also with Bic markers. The Bic permanent markers are alcohol-based markers as well. So the only extra marker you would need, other than the Bic markers, is a Copic colorless blender. And that will work with Bic pens, with the Bic markers. And then of course, if you don't have any alcohol markers at all, and you don't want to do this particular technique, but you love the card layout, you can do the same thing by using pattern paper and doing some paper piecing. All right, let's start with this tree over here. We're going to create a checkerboard pattern by drawing lines going across. And you can see how they're just lightening up wherever I put that colorless blender. And then you can go over them a second time to brighten them up a little bit more. And then we're going to switch and go the other way. This just makes a check pattern going across, and again a second time to brighten it up. And so there's my first tree. Now on this tree I'm going to just do the slanted lines, just the diagonals, to make it look a little bit different. And then I'm going to go back over them again to brighten it up. Okay, now for these I want to do something fun with some dots. So I'm just going to color small circles all over these trees. Now I'm just going to do one tree for you because I did both trees on my finished project the same way. Once I did the dots, I fell in love with them and I thought I wanted two trees with dots. Polka dots are always so cute and so fun. And you can just see I'm just drawing little tiny circles. And as soon as you touch the paper, you can start to see that color come right up. And now I'm going to go over them one more time to brighten them up. You can see how much brighter they get when you hit them with that colorless blender the second time. They really come out. And if you've lost your mojo and you're not in the mood to make cards, but you like to sit on the couch and watch TV and do a little bit of coloring, these kinds of techniques are really fun to do. You can pile up a small stack of ivory cardstock and stamp this image up a dozen times and color them just like this, and they're all ready for card projects when you get in the mood to make cards again. See how pretty that is? And then I would do the same thing to that one. Now let me show you my finished card project. What I've done here is I've used that wood-grained background, like you see here. See how it dried up so much lighter? I've used that as my backdrop, and I've mounted that whole panel onto some ivory cardstock and then onto a cherry red card base. And then my focal image, I mounted that onto a panel of cherry red, and I used the hugs from the Sun-Kissed Autumn Stamp TV kit, that greeting on some ivory and then a little panel of cherry red behind it. And I thought the hugs was really cute with the trees. So there is my little whimsical forest. Try other patterns on your trees, such as swirls, stars, and more, to create a whimsical forest all your own.